So this session is going to be recorded. So for anyone that does happen to miss it or would like a refresher, then as I say, we'll be recording it. I've hit record now, and over the next sort of couple of days, we'll be uploading it onto the YouTube channel. So if you do need to watch it again, or you need a refresher, or you want to sort of try and remember the hints and tips that I'm going to give you, then you will be able to watch it again. So I've done a technology test earlier, so I'm hoping that you can all hear me, and I'm hoping that you can all see the Xero screen that's in front of you. So I'm going to make a start. So just a sort of a few points about the system I'm using, which is GoToMeeting, which you've all logged into. This is just a sort of a platform for me to share my screen, or to share my webcam, or share my microphone, etc. I'm not using my webcam tonight, so thankfully you won't be able to see me, but you'll certainly be able to hear me, and you'll certainly be able to see my screen. Now, one thing I will do is ask that if you can stay on mute, if you can keep yourself on mute, that would be great. It's not because I don't want to hear you, it's because it keeps background noise to an absolute minimum. So I've got a couple of people that aren't on mute, so I'm just going to mute them. But if you could make sure that you do stay on mute for the duration of the meeting, that would be really handy, because as I say, it just keeps background noise down. So thank you very much for that. Now, the other point is, a few of you have got the hang of this already, is the chat box. Now, the chat box is going to be very much interactive tonight. So if anyone's got any questions or comments about the session, then you're very welcome to type them into the chat box where it says type message here. I'm not saying I'm going to be able to see all these while I'm actually running the session tonight. It's going to be a bit difficult to sort of keep my eye on Xero and to keep my eye on the chat box as well. I will, however, try to answer questions as the session goes on, and we will do a bit of a sort of Q&A towards the end of the session. But please feel free to ask anything you want to about Xero, or ask anything about the demo that I'm giving you tonight. And if I don't answer your question, I will be saving the chat log. So I will sort of get back to you at a later date. What I'll probably do is, if there's any questions unanswered, then what I'll do is I'll put a post on the Facebook page maybe tomorrow, giving you a sort of list of all the questions and answers there. Now, Karen says to me, can I make the picture bigger? Unfortunately, I can't, Karen. I'm absolute maximum now. So it's literally recording the whole of the screen. I can't make it any bigger, unfortunately. Hopefully you can see it okay, but as I say, in the recording and when it's uploaded, it may be sort of bigger for you to be able to see, but hopefully you can sort of get the gist of what I'm going to do anyway. Okay, so that's enough waffle. So let's get on to the session. So we're going to be talking about Xero tonight, and I'm going to be, hopefully, if all goes well, showing you a few of the features of the software. Now, Xero is cloud-based, so what that means, it's completely online, 100% on the internet. So there's nothing to download to your computer, there's nothing to download to your desktop. It's literally a software platform that you can use online. So that means you can literally use Xero wherever you have an internet connection and whatever you're using it on. So I've got my Mac here, so Xero's on my Mac. Obviously, if you have a PC, it's exactly the same system. It doesn't matter what sort of platform you're on, you're going to always be able to use Xero wherever you are, because it is online. So if you've got an iPad, if you've got a laptop, if you've got a smartphone, then you can use Xero. Basically, wherever you have an internet connection, you can use it. And this is sort of one of the benefits, I think, of cloud-based systems. I'm not sure if any of you were on my sort of cloud session last week we had on Facebook, but you probably know by now that I'm a bit of a cloud fan. Pretty much all the software in my practice is cloud-based, and I certainly believe this is the way of the future, as I've said before many times. And just to sort of pick up on Making Tax Digital, which is coming in April 2018, then that's going to basically involve filing information digitally to HMRC, and it's pretty much commonplace that you're going to have to be using cloud-based systems by the time that comes round. So I think personally, the earlier you can sort of adopt the cloud, then the better, really. So obviously, everyone's at different levels. Of course they are. Some maybe have started their own practice, some are thinking of it, some haven't yet. But I think whatever you decide to do, I really do think you need to make cloud a big part of your practice. And not necessarily Xero. Xero is literally just one of the many types of cloud-based software that you can get. It happens to be my software of choice. It's what I use for all my clients. There are lots and lots of other packages as well. There's packages like Free Agent, QuickBooks Online, there's Sage 1. All of these systems are cloud-based, and I'm sure they all have their own merits, but I particularly like to use Xero, and hopefully some of the things that I'll show you tonight will sort of reinforce why I love Xero so much. But as I say, it's completely down to you guys, whatever you decide to use. Xero, I guess, is designed more for the likes of us, for bookkeepers and accountants. It's not, for example, as straightforward maybe as, for example, Free Agent. I personally think Free Agent is more sort of designed towards clients that use it themselves. But having said that, I have lots of clients that use Xero and they're perfectly happy with it. So it's very much a preference, really. So anyway, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the dashboard, which is on the screen now. So this is the screen that you'll always see when you open up Xero for individual clients. At the moment, obviously, I've got the demo company on the screen. Xero does give you some demo data to use, which is great for sort of demonstration purposes like this. And it's also great to have a sort of bit of a play around without sort of playing around with live client data. It's much better to sort of log into the demo company and have a play around with it there. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So I've got the demo company open now. I'm just going to spend a few minutes now going through the dashboard and what we see on the screen, and then I'm going to sort of drill down into the sort of more of the features of Xero and give you sort of more of an in-depth demonstration, if you like. So the dashboard we've got on here now. So the first thing we'll see is the business bank account. Now the bank rec in Xero is probably one of the best features of it, in my opinion. So I'm just going to sort of shelve that for the moment. I'm going to come back to bank account because, in my opinion, it's really, really powerful. So we're just going to leave that for a second. And then we've got the savings account for the demo company here. There's nothing in the savings account at the moment. Literally all the bank accounts you've got set up on Xero you can show on the dashboard, so you can keep a sort of real-time view, an up-to-date version of the current bank figures. Now obviously Xero is no different to any other system in that it's only as good as the data that's in there. Xero is cloud-based, it's online, it's designed to have up-to-date data in. So as long as your data is up-to-date, then this dashboard is always going to be relevant whenever you log in. So we've got the two bank accounts there. Underneath that, we've got quite a handy graph that shows total cash in and out. So as I say, if we're completely up-to-date, then you're always going to have up-to-date figures here. If we move up to the right here, we've got account watch list. Now this contains 4 nominal codes at the moment. It's completely customizable, and its purpose is for you to keep an eye on, for example, clients' expenses as they go through the year. So in this case, we've got advertising and marketing set up. So we can keep an eye on the figures, how they're progressing through the year, how much is being spent, and we can always flag it up if we think there's a problem or if it's something we need to talk to the client about. And the good thing about this is that we can drill into it. So for example, we've got advertising and marketing. So far this year we've spent £8,711.46, and you can actually click into that. If I click into that, there might be a slight time delay depending on your internet connection, but hopefully on the screen now you can see the advertising and marketing summary, and that breaks it down by month, and you can drill even further into it if you want to. So that's quite handy. So we go to the back button here and we go back to the dashboard. So as I say, this account watch list, you can set it up however you want. You don't have to have it at all, but it is quite handy to keep an eye on certain codes if you want to for your client throughout the year. Now I've got invoices owed to you. So this is sales invoices. Now sales invoices is also one of the areas we're going to look at in depth in a second. So for this purpose here, we've got, it says 2 draft invoices. So you are able to raise sales invoices on Xero in draft format before they're finalized. So at the moment in this demo company, we've got 2 draft invoices. We've got 11 awaiting payment. So again, quite handy for sort of client information purposes there. They've got debtors of £11,417.63. So again, if we've got up-to-date data, we've got up-to-date sales invoices, then that gives you a nice overview of the current debtor position, which I think is quite helpful. And we've actually got 6 overdue. So again, vital information for the client. If the client wants you to chase his overdue invoices, then you've got them there. And you can literally, once again, just click into that. And with a bit of luck, it shows you the overdue invoices on the screen there. So that's quite handy. Now, by the same token, we've got bills you need to pay. So this is creditors. So supplier invoices, so draft, we haven't got any. We've got 18 awaiting payment, so that's what we need to pay, and we've got 9 that are overdue. So again, we might need to flag up to the client that we've got outstanding creditors of 11,218, and we need to get those paid. Now, expense claims, I'm not going to go into too much detail tonight about them, but obviously you can see that you are able to use these in Xero. So I'm just going to whip back to invoices owed to you, the debtors at the moment. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to give you a little peek at the sales invoices and what they look like in Xero. So if we can click on new sales invoice, you can actually raise a sales invoice from the dashboard as like that. So the first thing we've got is our customer. Now, if we've got all our customers set up in Xero, then we can just press the first letter of their name. So if I just press A, that will bring up all the contacts we've got in Xero that begin with A, and then we can just click on that and the name comes up. So we've got the date of the invoice, we've got due date, obviously these can all be changed. We've got invoice number. Now invoice number does increment each time, so that's quite a handy feature, but again, it's completely customizable. You don't have to use that style of number there, you can use whatever you want to. Reference and branding, again, I won't go into too much detail at the moment. I'm just going to sort of summarize everything as much as I can on Xero, and then if you want to see anything in greater detail later, or if you've got any further questions, then we can deal with that later on. So item, so again, item is not compulsory. You don't have to have item set up. In this demo company, we have got item set up. So if you've got stock, for example, then you would have items. If you're just invoicing, for example, consultancy, then you wouldn't necessarily. So you don't have to have items set up, but in this case, there are. Now, it's quite handy if you are selling stock that items are set up, because you'll see if we just click on that one there, then that will pre-fill the description. So if the stock items are set up with all the description fields completed, then every time you raise an invoice and use that item number, then the invoice will pre-fill, which is quite handy. But again, you can change the fields there. So you can click into that and change the description if you want to. Quantity, again, completely customizable, obviously, as it would be. And the price, so we've got a stock item here, the price is set up, so I guess we would just leave that as it was, but again, you can change it. You can offer a discount as well. So what I'm using, by the way, just to move through the fields, is the tab key. You can obviously use the mouse to click around in the fields as well. I'm using, I guess because I'm so used to using the keyboard, I'm using the tab key to move through the fields. The nominal code is already set up. It's in this case it's 200, which is sales, so we can leave that. We can tab through to 20% VAT. Obviously, this client in the demo company is VAT registered, so we can leave that as well. A region, again, that's a sort of additional feature that I'm not going to go into too much detail in tonight. So we can leave that. So that's really the invoice done. So you've got £33.60. Now, you'll notice there that that's the gross amount. So we've got amounts are tax inclusive. Now that can be changed. You can have that inclusive or exclusive. It's entirely up to you. It's whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever you're used to. But once you've set it, you can sort of set it globally so it won't change. So you can either have exclusive or inclusive. So that's the invoice there. So if we've raised that invoice, we would, in normal circumstances, say approve to sort of raise that invoice and enter it onto the system. I won't for the moment. So I'll come back out of that. And what I will do is we've already got 2 invoices. Maybe what we'll do is click in awaiting payment. Let's look at the ones that we're awaiting payment for. So this is the list here of debtors. So we can click into an individual invoice. So if I move to the invoice number for the first one and I left click, that will bring the invoice up on the screen with a bit of luck. Hopefully yeah, that's it. There we go. So there's that invoice on the screen. Now with invoices in Xero, you can email them out. Click on email. If you've got your email address set up in the customer records, you can literally email that straight to the client. So again, totally customizable. This is the sort of standard description that's set up in Xero when you email invoices out, but you can change that to the wording that you want. So my first question, Paulette says, how about currency? Absolutely. You can have a multi-currency version of Xero. Now, when you subscribe to Xero, the multi-currency version does cost you a little bit more, but it's certainly possible. I was going to say I'm quite lucky. I'm not sure if it's lucky or unlucky, but I haven't got any clients that use multi-currency, so I haven't subscribed to it. But as I say, for a little bit of an extra charge, you can use the sort of multi-currency version of Xero. So definitely. Okay, so I'm just having another quick look through the questions now. No problem, Paulette, no problem at all. Karen says, how do we enter company names, nominal codes, all info if it's a new company? That's a very good question. And what I'll do then is let me just go back to the dashboard. Let me just finish what I'm doing on this screen here. As I said, you can email invoices out. You can print PDFs. If I click on that now, would you like to mark the invoice as sent? I won't at the moment. I'm just going to really show you what the PDF looks like on the screen. I'm saying that. I'm not sure if it will come up. It's probably not going to come up because it's going to come up as a separate attachment, but not much use really because you can only see my internet browser, so it's not going to show you. But rest assured, it does come up as a nice PDF. You can again completely customize the invoice. You can use your own logo. You can design the invoice how you want it to look and send it out to the customer as a PDF, or you can email it out as well. And view online invoice, Sharon, you're absolutely right. So if you click on that, you can basically send it to the client as almost like a web address, if you like. So you can send that to the client and they can view that literally online. And if you've got a payment provider like PayPal set up, they can actually pay it there and then as well, which is really, really handy. I don't want to confuse the issue by going too much into that. So we'll go back to that. We'll close that and back to that. So a new customer, let me just quickly show you how to do that then. We'll go back to the dashboard, we'll go back to new sales invoice. And what you can do, let's say it's called, I don't know, John Smith or something like that. So you'll see, because it doesn't recognize it in there, it will say new contact. So if you then click on new contact, that will temporarily add it there. You'll see it says new. So you can fill all the invoice details in. And then at the end, when you've raised the invoice, it will say add address. I think it says add address or edit address there, which is where you can fill in all the address details. But there is another section on Xero, on the contact section, where you can do exactly the same thing. So before you raise the invoice, you could add the customer as a contact. So a couple of different ways of doing it, really. So I'll come back out of that for now. So that's, in a nutshell, the sales side of Xero. There's a lot more to it than that, but as I say, we're not going to go into massive detail tonight. It's really just to give you a sort of summary of how it all works, really. So go back to the dashboard. No problem, Karen. So we just have a quick look at creditors. So supplier invoices. So Xero calls them bills, and now some people don't like that term, but I guess it's easy to remember. Sales invoices and bills. So we're going to click on new bill. Same sort of screen really as before. Again, if we've got suppliers set up in Xero, we'll type, for example, the letter B, and we've got all these different contacts. So Boom FM, we'll say. Again, dates completely customizable. You can put whatever dates you want in. Very sensible to put a due date before the invoice date. Let's put that date in. Again, reference, you can put whatever you want in there. Item, again, if you're buying stock items, that will allow you to do that, but you don't have to use item. Let's, for example, say we were purchasing, I don't know, accountancy fees. That would be a good one. So if we put accountancy fees in there, quantity 1, and we'll put unit price. How much do we charge them? 400. And we go to the nominal code, and 2 ways to put the nominal code in as before. We can open that there and we can scroll through them just like that. Or we can start to type in the name. So if I put ACC, we've got audit and accountancy fees. So we'll click on that. It's detected that there's 20% VAT on that. Obviously, you can change that if you want to. The 20% is the sort of default option. So again, we've got amounts are tax inclusive and tax exclusive. So it's whichever one makes more sense to you, you can use. And there we go. Approve that. And the supplier bill is entered into Xero. So that's sort of briefly how the customers and suppliers works on Xero. We go back to the dashboard. So what I'm going to look at now is the bank. Now the bank is a really, really good area, really interesting area, really, really good to use. I'll answer that question quickly. Karen, are the nominal codes already set up? Yes, they are. So you'll get a default chart of accounts in Xero when you first set the company up. Again, totally customizable. So you don't have to use that. You can set up a brand new one if you have one, for example, already set up. Let's say you're converting from a system like Sage or QuickBooks or something like that, and you have your own chart of accounts with its own numbers, then absolutely you can set that up from scratch, completely unique to you. But you can also use the Xero default chart of accounts, which sits in there when you first set the company up. So we're going to look at bank now. Now, as I say, for me, the bank rec is the real power of the software. Now, what we can do in Xero is we can import the bank information into the system in a couple of ways. What we can do is we can set up what's called an automatic bank feed. Now, I know there's a few issues around security, which again, I'm not going to go into too much detail tonight. Some clients don't like putting the bank information into Xero to set the automatic feed up, but some are perfectly happy to do it. I've got lots of clients that have got automatic bank feeds set up. Now, the beauty of automatic bank feeds is they are literally that. So what happens is when you log into Xero, let's say you're logging into Xero 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, then all Monday's bank information will be sitting there waiting for you. And Sharon says, I love this bit, and she's absolutely right. It is fantastic. To have that, to have the bank information entered into Xero without you literally having to do anything is incredible. As I say, you do have the slight issue of clients and security. So that's something you do need to think about, and maybe on a later session I'll sort of describe in detail how that works. But as I say, choice of options, you can have the automatic bank feed set up, or failing that, you can import the client's bank information into Xero. Now, again, you can do that in a couple of ways. What you can do is you can get your client to log into their internet banking, and you can get them to export a file that Xero can read. You can also get them to export a CSV file, which Xero can also read, but there are many, many different formats of files that Xero will recognize. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I think it's QIF and OFX, which I think most of the banks do support. So, for example, the client could log into their online banking, export the QIF or the OFX file, and you can then import that into Xero. Xero will read it, and this is what happens. So I'm going to click on Reconcile 28 items on here. So, okay. So on the left hand side of the screen here is what Xero has downloaded. So whatever happens, I would not need to enter any of this information here. If you've got the automatic bank feed set up, you're going to log into Xero and you're going to see all this information that's been pulled in automatically. If you haven't got the automatic bank feed, if you're importing it manually, if you're importing it via QIF or OFX file, then you will still see this after you've done the import. So literally, I haven't gone in and typed in these names and these numbers. It's literally picked these up from the bank information, which I think is excellent. So all the transactions that are on the client's bank statement for whatever period you've downloaded or uploaded, I should say, whether it's the month, the week, or the previous day even, then Xero will pull all of this in. So the left-hand side is literally a carbon copy of the bank statement. The right-hand side is where you code the entries. It's where you tell Xero what each entry relates to. So this is what the bank rec screen looks like. So as I say, left-hand side, totally automatic. Right-hand side is where you tell Xero what each transaction relates to. Now, Rosie says, is Xero the only software that does the automatic bank? Absolutely not, Rosie. There's lots of other systems. I certainly know Free Agent does it, and I'm pretty sure that QuickBooks Online does it as well. Not sure about Sage 1, not sure about the others, but I do know that it's not unique to Xero. Absolutely not. But it's a very, very powerful feature. As I say, I've got lots of clients that do use it. I'm actually going to a client tomorrow, and she swears by the automatic bank feed. I think the director was a little bit iffy about setting it up originally because of security, but it's been working every day now, and she just loves going in each morning and seeing the previous day's bank information there. So anyway, back to the bank rec. So the right-hand side is where we tell Xero what each bank transaction relates to. Now, when Xero turns something green, it means that it's tried to work it out itself. It's tried to tell us or suggest to us what the entry should be. So, for example, we've got a payment here from Ridgeway University. So when they've paid us, they've used invoice 0035 as a description. It's for 618,750. So Xero knows that we have got an outstanding debtor from Ridgeway University for 618,750. It's invoice number 35. So it's basically saying to us, is it this invoice? Does that payment relate to this invoice? So we know that it does. Now, sometimes you might have, for example, two invoices for the same amount, and in which case you can tell Xero which invoice it relates to. It's literally just suggesting entries for us. As it happens, this one is exactly right. So literally all we need to do for that one bank entry is say OK, and that's reconciled. It's as simple as that. Now we've got lots of other entries here. Now you'll see on this one here there's a match, there's a create, there's a transfer, and there's a discuss tab. Now if you've got the client using Xero, where you've got the accountant such as me logging into it, the client can actually upload the bank rec and leave a note if they're not sure where to code it, for example. So when I log in, or when the accountant or when the bookkeeper logs in, they can actually see there's been a note left by the client. As it happens, this time they've said, this is for an old invoice, I wasn't sure where to code it. So if the client's coding the bank but gets stuck and doesn't know what to do, they can leave it and leave a note for us when we next log in. So again, a really, really powerful feature. So we can literally, this one here, for example, we've got Ridgeway Banking Corporation of £15. Now, Xero also remembers previous entries as well. So Xero, in this case, has remembered that last time there was a charge from Ridgeway for £15. It was a bank fee. So it's already got Ridgeway Bank in the description. It's already got bank fees in the nominal code. And we've already got bank fee there. There's no VAT. So if we think that's right, if Xero's remembered the previous entry correctly, again, we can just say OK, and that will reconcile. Now, that's the sort of gist of the reconciliation, but there is something which I think is even better now, and that's called cache coding. Now, cache coding is really handy for coding bulk transactions in one go. So that list we see in front of you is exactly the same as the list that we saw just now. It's just presented in sort of a table format. We've got all the entries together. Now, this enables us to reconcile lots of transactions at once. Now, I think one situation where it might be really, really handy is if you were using Xero for an annual accounts client, for example. So let's say that you'd uploaded a year's worth of bank transactions into Xero for a client, and you just wanted to prepare a set of accounts for them. They were on a cash basis, they weren't registered for VAT. All we literally needed to do was to code up all the transactions and we could produce a set of accounts for them. And cache coding is a brilliant, brilliant way of doing that. Now let me show you why. So we've got the 26 transactions here, all unreconciled at the moment. Now you'll see the payee is at the moment in the order of, it's in the bank entries are in date order. If we click on the payee tab there, if we just left click there, it will change the entries into alphabetical order. So for example, we've got Central City Parking all together. So this is the beauty of cache coding. We know Central City Parking, we know all the transactions are going to be coded to the same code, or pretty much we do. I guess sometimes we don't 100%, but most of the time, certainly if you've got something like Central City Parking, you know what it's for. So if you had lots and lots and lots of these transactions, you don't need to reconcile them individually. You can simply click on the tick box for the first one. You can hold down the Shift key on your keyboard, and then you can tick on the last one, and that will highlight all of them at once. And then you can literally click on any one you like. So we'll click on that one there. We'll put the description as parking. I'll then press the Tab key to move across, and you'll see that it's put the parking description in all the transactions. And in the account, let's say, I don't know, let's put travel, which is what it's going to be. Travel National, we'll put that as the nominal code. Again, we'll press Tab, and that's put the code in all the entries. Now VAT on parking, I'm not going to get into that debate now. For now, I'll put no VAT on there. Tab again, highlights them all. Now you can imagine if you've got a lot of entries, if we had, say, 50 entries for Central City Parking in our accounting year, you can simply code them, bulk code them almost as one entry. So when you say save and reconcile selected at the bottom now, you just click on that and that will reconcile all those transactions. 5 were saved and reconciled successfully. Okay. So you can see how quickly it makes, for example, annual accounting jobs or even quarterly accounting jobs. I guess it works best for clients that are on the cash basis and aren't registered for VAT, because it's just so easy to do. You haven't got sort of sales invoices to worry about. You haven't got VAT to worry about. Obviously, it doesn't work for every client. It doesn't work for the bigger clients. But it can be used, even for the bigger clients, it can be used in some way. But I think that's a really, really powerful feature. I really like cash coding, and it just makes coding entries and doing the bank rec a breeze, really. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard for the moment. So that's cash coding. So what I'm going to show you now is another really good feature. It's called Find and Recode. Now, this is for, I guess, clients that you've got that are doing the bookkeeping themselves on Xero. So they've got Xero, they're doing the bookkeeping day in, day out. They've got you. Right, let's go back to Karen's question. Can you still use cash coding if you claim VAT? Yes, you can. Obviously, Karen, you've got to be a little bit more careful because on that cash coding screen, it doesn't show you the VAT as an individual amount. So you have to be slightly careful there. But yes, you can certainly do it. Absolutely. So I'm going to talk about Find and Recode. So Find and Recode, as I say, if you've got clients that do the bookkeeping themselves on Xero and they just use you as an accountant or a bookkeeper just to log in and sort of check the figures for them. Now, you'll quite often find, as I'm sure you may know, if you have clients that do their own bookkeeping, sometimes they get it wrong. It does happen. I think I've lost count of the amount of clients that have done their bookkeeping, coded things to the wrong code, etc., etc. So Find and Recode works perfectly for that sort of scenario. So I'm going to go to Advisor, and right at the bottom there we've got Find and Recode. So we're going to click on that. Internet connection's been good so far. Right, so we're going to click on Find and Recode, just like that. So what we're going to do, let's say, trying to think of a scenario here. So what we need to do is add a condition anyway. So we click on Add a Condition. So we want to look for clients that have coded something. So account, that means nominal account, is, let's say they've coded it to, let's say, accountancy fees then. So we'll click on that, and then we'll say search. Right, okay. So there on the screen there, I've said, Xero, can you find me all the transactions that have been coded to audit and accountancy fees? That means nominal account is audit and accountancy fees. So there we go. It's found 3 transactions in the system. And as it happens, they're all monthly subscriptions for Xero. Right, okay. So you could argue that should be coded to software. So what we'll do is we'll say, right, we need to recode all those to software. So obviously we haven't had to search through the system to find those transactions, which I think has been a bit of a pain before. Certainly when I've used Sage Desktop and you find transactions that clients have coded incorrectly, it's a bit of a pain. It can be a bit of a pain to find those transactions and change them individually. So that's where this Find and Recode comes into its own, really. So we found those 3 transactions. We're going to click on the tick just above them, so that will tick all 3 for us. We're going to click on Recode. So it says, do you want to change the contact? We won't change that. Do we want to change the tax rate? We won't change that. We'll just change the account to software, IT software. Again, these are completely customizable. And then we'll say review. So it says confirm recode, 3 line items affecting 3 transactions will be updated with these changes. So what it's going to do is going to take all the transactions that have been coded to accountancy fees. In this case, it's only 3. And it's going to completely recode every single one to software. So we're going to say confirm. And there we go. So those 3 transactions all been recoded to software. Simple as that. And I'm sure you agree, it's also handy for, we know clients like the code general expenses a lot. Certainly clients bookkeeping, the clients that do their own bookkeeping, I find it a lot. They code lots and lots and lots to general expenses. So it's a really good feature for sort of trying to sort of itemize those transactions and code them to what they should be coded to. Will it remember the code? No, it won't. It won't, Amy. So it's probably like a good exercise to do at the sort of year end or something like that. Yeah, but really handy feature. You can sort of use it pretty much any time. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard. So just another couple of notes before I sort of move on to my sort of final area that I want to talk about really. We've got some tabs across the top here. Again, I won't go into too much detail with each one. I haven't really got time tonight. But we have got quite a handy feature which Xero have actually recently just added into the software, and that's the plus button here. Now, it enables you to do pretty much anything from the dashboard. You haven't got to go into individual items to raise a spend money or receive money or a bill or a purchase order or a journal. You can do it all from the dashboard now, so that's quite handy. Now, also what I was going to show you is it says, you'll see here, it says your last login an hour ago. So this is a bit of a security feature again that's recently been added. You'll see an hour ago is underlined, and when something's underlined it means you can click on it. So if we click on that, an hour ago, it then comes up with a log of who's logged into your Xero account, how long ago, what time, what date, and the IP address of the computer as well. So this is quite handy as well. So you can see you've got different IP addresses here because I used my iPad and my phone and my Mac. But it's quite a handy security feature. If you open up your client's data and you've suddenly got a list of logins that they haven't done, all saying Singapore or something like that, you know there's a problem. So you can then click on contact support and they'll look into it urgently for you. So I'm not saying there would be a problem, but it's quite a handy feature just to keep an eye on who's logging in, where and when really. So I'm going to close that. So the other thing I was going to show you is a feature called Files, which again I find really handy. So I'm going to click on Files. So Files is literally that. It's almost like an electronic filing cabinet that Xero's got. So you can store documents here. So let's say you've got, I don't know, lease purchase agreements, or you've got copies of asset invoices that you need to keep for the accountant or for the bookkeeper, then you can store them here. So you can pretty much upload any document you want to. If you've got a sort of JPEG picture of it on your computer, or if it's a Word document or even an Excel spreadsheet, you can add anything into your client's file. So I think it's really, really, really handy. And you've got a really bizarre email address here which is completely unique to your client. So although you're never going to remember that email address, you can literally copy and paste it into your email address book, and anything you send to that unique email address will appear in your files inbox in Xero. So it's literally like an electronic filing cabinet, I suppose. But really, really handy if you're storing documents that you need to keep for the future. I guess it's sort of leading on to the paperless office, you know. Pretty much everything you've got stored in Xero, but you can now add documents, copies of documents as well. I think it's a really handy feature, and lots of my clients do use this. They've got various documents uploaded into their client files in Xero. As I say, various ways you can do it. You can email them to this email address. You can upload files. You can even take photos. If you've got a computer's got a camera, you can take photos sort of on the fly and upload them into Xero as well. And you can also drag and drop as well. So if, for example, you've got a file open on your desktop, you can literally drag it into here and it will appear in your client's inbox in Xero as well. So it's almost like a sort of online filing cabinet, and just, you know, kind of unique, I think, to sort of accounting software. I don't think there's much accounting software that allows you to do that. So another sort of strong feature of Xero, I guess. So just to run through a sort of final couple of things before I sort of close off and see if there's any questions. We've sort of covered the dashboard, I guess, really. I'll just briefly run through the headings along the top. So we've got accounts. So again, bank account, we've looked at pretty much all of these really, but inventory, I said you can control stock on Xero as well. Expense claims, if you have staff or you have employees' expense claims or directors' expense claims, you can control them through the software. And it's got a pretty good fixed asset system as well. You can set up automatic depreciation and that sort of thing to sort of control the assets you've got on your books as well. Now, payroll is a bit of a sticky area with Xero. It's had a bit of a bad rap, mainly because it's quite new. Xero only developed payroll a sort of few months ago, I think. I think it was the beginning of this tax year. And it's had a few bugs, it's had a few blips, but they're generally ironing those out now. And the payroll feature is sort of getting stronger by every update really. So it's quite nice in that you've got a payroll sort of built into the software, so you can sort of have all your controls, if you like, in one place, which is quite handy. So you don't actually need to have a separate payroll software if you've got, let's say you've got director only payrolls where you're just sort of paying the director once a month, then you can do this within Xero as well. So as I say, it's not the best payroll system in the world, I must say, but they are constantly updating it, and hopefully they will get to the stage where it is pretty good. Reports is great. I'll just really quickly show you one of the reports. If I go into all reports, now profit and loss, they've recently sort of updated the profit and loss report, so we've almost got the old one and the new one here. So if I click on the new one, we've got a date range this financial year that can be changed to this month, this quarter, or last financial year, and then update. And obviously it only gives you the basic profit and loss report. Actually, this financial year there was probably more in it actually. Let's go back to that for a second. And again, this is not unique to Xero, but quite a handy feature is that you can drill down with the figures as well. So advertising and marketing we can drill down into and see how that figure's made up. As I say, all these reports pretty much depend on your internet speed. Obviously, because Xero is cloud-based, it's online, it does very much depend on how fast your internet is. I'd sort of put my neck on the line and say most places now have got a pretty fast internet connection, but if you have got a slow internet connection or your speeds are not very good, then obviously that is going to affect what you do on the software. Karen says, will I be doing a payroll talk? Payroll is one of the things I've talked to Natasha about, Karen. So yes, we may well be doing payroll in the future, maybe even looking at the Xero payroll at the same time. I mean, that's another thing. We're sort of going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but if there is any particular area of the software that you'd like me to do maybe a separate demonstration on, or make a video clip, or maybe even have another session like this, if there's a specific area that you want to look at, then by all means drop Natasha an email or just put it on the Facebook page if there's anything you particularly want to see. Or also if there's any sort of add-ons, I don't know if any of you guys know about add-ons to, for example, Xero. There's an add-on called Receipt Bank, which I do plan to do a session on in the future. Receipt Bank is a fantastic receipt processing piece of software. Again, completely cloud-based, and it links with Xero. Absolutely stunning software. So I will be doing a demonstration on that soon as well. But if there's any sort of other areas you'd like to know about, or you'd like to look at or see in greater detail, then either let Natasha or myself know, and I'm sure we can do some more sessions in the future. So advertising and marketing we've just clicked on, so that gives us a summary, and again we can drill down even further by clicking on the individual invoice as well. So it's sort of got the whole process there really. Let's just go back to there. So that gives you a sort of overview of the report screen as well. As you can see, it's quite comprehensive. There's quite a few different reports on here. We've got the trial balance, we've got the journal, we've got the general ledger. We've got the bank reconciliation summary. You can see if the bank's okay. We've got a depreciation schedule. We've got fixed asset reconciliations, all the payroll reports. So again, pretty comprehensive. Let's go back to the dashboard for 1 second. Advisor. Now, if you're a partner of Xero, or if you're controlling clients on Xero, you're going to have the Advisor tab. Lots of different things available there. It's where you can post journals. You can do management reports. You can do VAT returns. Export data, just the find and recode what we saw just now. So again, that's pretty much sort of aimed at us. Generally if the client's using Xero, they wouldn't have that Advisor tab. That's very much the sort of accountant stroke bookkeeper tab in Xero that we can do all of the bits that we need to do there. So let me just see, there's a couple of questions. Let me just have a little look. Rosie says, can she watch us at a later date? Absolutely. As I said, Rosie, we've recorded this, so we'll post it up as soon as we can. Oh, Natasha's just said that, so thank you guys. Right, so yes, so contacts. I think we touched on this earlier on. Again, I'm not going to go into great detail here, but we've got the contact screen, we've got customers, the suppliers, employees, as I say, totally customizable. And settings, so there's the chart of accounts. Again, we were talking about that earlier. So there's the sort of generic chart of accounts that Xero provides when you first set the company up. But again, you can change this. It's not sort of set in stone. You can start off on your own completely with a blank piece of paper, and you can set your account codes up to how you want them, to how you're used to them, or you can go with the chart of accounts that Xero's prepared. And you can obviously add in further accounts as you go. So, as I say, nothing's set in stone. You can change it. So settings, generally got payroll settings there as well. So that's kind of it for the demonstration, really. There's lots more to Xero than that, but that's a sort of basic overview, I suppose, I've given you tonight, and hopefully it's been interesting. As I say, to me, the power of Xero is sort of twofold, I guess. I think the fact that it's online, I think the fact that it's in the cloud is powerful. I think the fact that you can, for example, you could go and see a client in a coffee shop that's got Wi-Fi, sit down with them with your iPad, and to sort of bring this sort of information up to show them, I think is really powerful, and I think clients do like it. And I think with things like the automatic bank feed, you can sit down with your client and go through management information that's just up to date by a day. So I do think it changes the way we do our bookkeeping, the way we look at accounts. But as I say, this is not exclusive to Xero. This is just a sort of thought process that I have in general. I think the cloud is very much the way forward, and I think it's something that we need to get into as soon as possible so that we can be ready for making tax digital when it comes in April 2018. And I just think Xero is one of the ways that we can do that, really. So let me just see a couple more comments here. So Caroline says she loves the software so much better than Sage. I can see why you rate it so highly. I do rate it highly. As I say, I'm not on commission with Xero at all. As I said, there's lots and lots of other cloud-based packages that you can use. There's, as I say, Free Agent, which is a lot simpler than Xero, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I think, as I say, Free Agent is designed more for the client to use, and I think that Xero is designed more for the accountant or bookkeeper to use. And there's QuickBooks Online. I'm not a huge fan of QuickBooks Online, but there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's another perfectly decent cloud-based system. But as I say, to me, Xero is one of the better options. It's probably one of the more expensive options, I guess, but if you're a partner of Xero, if you're accounting or a bookkeeping partner, you can get deals. You can get, for example, the Bureau deal, it's called, that I'm on at the moment, which gives you companies for £9 a month. That's £9 per month per client, which, even if that sounds expensive, you have to think that that covers everything. You don't pay for any software updates, you don't pay an annual fee, you just pay that on an ongoing basis. And of course you can recharge that to the client if you want to. I don't do that. I suffer the cost, if you like, the £9, and I incorporate that into my monthly fees to the client. So I don't actually send the client a bill that says you're being charged, £9 for Xero. So I kind of provide it as part of my service. And I think if you can do that, you can look sort of really professional by doing this as well. Now, let me see my few other questions here. So Tamara says, can you import data into Xero? Yes, you can. Now, again, that's not something I'm going to cover right now, but with this software, for example, there's one called Move My Books. Now, Move My Books offers a service where they will take your Sage data or they will take your QuickBooks data and they will convert it into Xero for you. Now, I think I'm right in saying that at the moment they're doing that for free. Don't quote me on that, but they certainly were a while ago as an incentive for people to use Xero. They were offering Sage and QuickBooks conversions totally free of charge. Now, you have various options with that. You can just import current data or you can import the previous year. I think maybe it's up to the previous 2 years that you can import. So yes, software does exist to do that. And again, if that's something that everyone's interested in, I'm happy to maybe demo that at another stage as well. But yes, you can certainly do it. You don't have to sort of rekey everything into Xero, or you don't necessarily have to start with a blank piece of paper. You can import historical data from Sage and from QuickBooks into Xero. Is it possible to correct errors? Yes, again, obviously I'm not going to go into that now, Yulia, but yes, you can do that. You can certainly correct errors. Support from Xero is very good, Sharon says, and the online help is good. Now that's the other thing. Now, maybe one of the downsides of Xero is there's no telephone support. Now, the support is literally online, which I guess works in keeping with their with the fact that everything they do is online. But I have to say, again, I'm not just saying this. Xero's online support is excellent. I'll give you one example. I think one Sunday morning I was being a bit sad and doing a VAT return for a client, and I did get stuck on something, and I emailed Xero support. I didn't actually email them even. You just can contact them literally from a little box inside the software. You can contact them. And I submitted a query that I had on my VAT return. And I would say, although it was a Sunday morning, within the hour, they'd got back to me with the answer to the query. So I think even though they don't offer telephone support, the online support is very, very good. And like Sharon says, the sort of online help, there's lots of online help available with Xero as well. There's lots of sort of, I can actually, if I can try and go into it now, I can just show you. There's something called, so if you say contact Xero support there, I won't go into that, but that's what you'd use if you've got a specific query, and that's where they answered me within the hour. You can also go to the help centre as well. If I click on the help centre, far too much to go into now, but there's so much information on there. Get started with Xero, accountants and bookkeepers, just literally everything you want to see you can click on. It's really, really comprehensive help. But as I say, if it doesn't provide the answer to your query, you can simply contact support and they are really, really quick in getting back to you. Okay, so I'm going to be here for another 10 minutes or so online here. If anyone's got any more questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box. If I can answer them, I will. If not, please post any questions you've got to the Facebook group, or if there's anything else you want to say, or if there's any other software you'd like to see or any other part of Xero that you'd like to see, then either pop it onto the Facebook page or email Natasha, and I'm sure we can sort that out in the future. So I hope everyone's enjoyed that. Caroline says she needs to go and put her toddlers to bed. No problem, Caroline. I hope you have found it useful. And I hope everyone else has found it useful too. So my software of choice, and very, 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 very powerful stuff. Tonight I've really given you only a basic overview of it, but hopefully it's kind of demonstrated the power of it and how it's really sort of changing the way we do bookkeeping, really. So that's just about it from me. I'm going to stop the recording in a second, but I'm still going to be here online if anyone wants to ask any other questions or got any queries. But apart from that, thank you all so much for coming tonight. It's been really good. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too. And I'll see you all soon. Thanks very much.